256 of No Direction, the No Direction Network's Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
We have a policy here at No Direction to no longer host interviews that are transparently promotions for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
For us to invite guests on for a crowdfunding-related conversation, that conversation has to be more about the end product and stretch goals. Like, if it's a book we're already excited about.
And already have.
If it's associated with a callback to one of our favorite community engagement initiatives.
Right. Or if several No Direction staff directly helped with it.
And several other people in the industry that are just favorites of ours.
Indeed.
That's why we're excited to be discussing Battle Zoo Bestiary with two of the book's authors, Roll for Combat publishers Stephen Glicker, and normally from Paizo, but today he will be representing Roll for Combat as a freelancer, I believe is the situation. It is Mark Seifter. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hello.
Mark, clear that up. You haven't, bought stock in Roll for Combat or anything, right?
I don't think there is stock in Roll for Combat. That's right. I'm not here as Paizo's design manager. I am here as a freelancer who worked on a very special part of this particular book, the monster crafting part. So that's what I'm here for.
I think a broad theme for this interview is going to be, how do you two find the time?
I just don't know how he finds the time.
I don't know either, to be honest. Actually, I do know how I find the time. I don't sleep. That's my secret.
Oh, no.
No, that was sort of the thing at MIT. They were like, socialize, do your actual work, and sleep. Pick two.
Right.
Ooh.
Same at Carnegie Mellon.
Well, I'm not doing my work at MIT then.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, where to begin with Battle Zoo Bestiary? So this is a new bestiary that's coming out. It's from Roll for Combat. This is your first hardcover release, right, Stephen?
Yes.
What made you want to get into the publishing game?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I have a degree in publishing. And
I don't believe it.
I used to do it way back in my college days. We're talking about college a lot. I used to be on in the school newspaper, and I actually know quite a bit about publishing. And I did it way before I got into the internet. I was into publishing, so I have a background in it. And I don't know. It actually has to do more that I wanted to bring back to RPG Superstar. That's where it came from. And when I saw Eric Mona at PAX Unplugged with you, Perram, I asked him, are you doing anything with RPG Superstar? And he's like, no. I'm like, can I use it? And then we worked it out, and I'm like, yeah. And then it was his idea. He's like, okay, make monsters and do a lot of monsters. And I was like, okay. So instead of doing one prize, we tried to have a lot of prizes for a lot of people, and it was great. It's a lot more fun. We got a lot of results. We got 114 monsters out of it. A lot of new people are now, introduced into the industry. It's, it just was something to give back to the community. And then I'm like, well, I had to do a book that's hardcover. And Eric Mona, who helped out a lot in this, said it had to be at least 160 pages. And we only had about 120. So then I was like, okay, I need to fill it out. Oh, Mark, I have an idea for a system that you can help me out with, since you know the math better than anyone. And he and I worked on the monster part system. And there you go. We got a book.
All right. So, Dr. Frankenstein, what is this subsystem that you helped create?
So the monster parts subsystem, or monster parts system, you can decide if it's sub or not, is basically, I went through and pre-calculated out the math so that someone who's using the book doesn't have to do any of that. For what if you wanted to remove a certain amount of the normal magic item economy and put in some getting parts out of monsters you defeat and turning them into items. And I did this under 3 different assumptions because there's so many different ways you might want to do that. One is sort of we like the normal magic items, but we're probably in the middle of the woods and we want to get some stuff from monsters. Maybe there's no stores. There's not liquid gold piece and art object sales. We'll just replace that with a little bit of monster crafting. Then there's one on the other extreme that's everything is monster crafting. And sure, we'll make some consumables, but maybe we'll do that with monster crafting, but there will be barely anything else. Let's replace all of the rewards with monster parts and use that for everything. And then the middle one, which is my favorite, it's maybe a little harder to apply to a pre-published adventure than the other two, which are really, really easy. Either just take out all the money or take out everything. With the middle hybrid system, you wind up taking out some of the items, but not others. And you wind up getting enough parts to make some really cool items for your party and enough of the normal magic items to get some cool magic items. And that's where they really sing together, but it works great with any of the three versions, basically. So Monster Hunter is sometimes used as a comparison, but it's not exactly the same, because it's not going to be like, oh, you have to defeat a frost giant and get 3 frost giant beards, and then you're going to have to get 5 Behir claws, but each Behir sometimes only drops one claw, even though they have 8 arms, or anything like that. But instead, you can basically use any monster you defeat. The system is completely future-proof based on certain concepts that Steve and I came up with and that I worked out, so that you can make items later on that come out in books that didn't exist if you really want to. You can deal with any monster that comes out later on that didn't exist right now. It can just do whatever you need for that sort of, I'm going to craft out of the monsters I find. So that's in a nutshell.
In high school, I had a barbarian who ripped some stingers out of giant wasps and wore them through his glove like some Wolverine claws. So high school me is thanking you, because this system finally exists.
Yeah, you can do that now. That's absolutely right. You can even be like, if there's a trap that has like a scythe that came after you, or it's shooting out poison darts, and you're like, why can't I just take all of these poison darts and this scythe and like craft it into my armor or something like that? You can do that too. So it doesn't have to be monsters, and it doesn't have to be monsters you kill. It can also be monsters you befriended. There's a lot of not that you carve them up into pieces,
Hi, friend,
Ryan.
rip it apart.
No, but you know the fantasy trope where like an angel's feather, a single feather freely given by the angel, has more magic power to it because of the fact that it gave it to you willingly than just like ripping apart the angel for all of its other feathers. Maybe that works out the same. And the tables that I put in there basically allow you to replace the tables from the core rulebook that tell you how many of different types of items to give per level. Or in this case, there's some fast and easy ones that are can get a little bit off over time, but they just do it per monster. It's like, oh, it's a level 5 monster, this much value. And it doesn't tell you that it has to be from killing them. It could be one feather that's worth that much, or it could be the entire angel's corpse that's worth that much. And either way, you get what you need for monster crafting.
I'm just imagining like a farm or a ranch full of blink dogs, and you just shave them every season.
The
Sure.
sheep.
Yes.
Use a lore skill to earn income shaving blink dogs.
Now, one of the now I know like the Monster Hunter comparison is going to be the obvious one. And it is, but I do want to stress how extremely satisfying it is when you hard fight a big old critter that has like Glavenus, a giant tail blade, and then you get to later on beat it to death with its own tail blade. This is an incredibly satisfying moment. And from what I've read of the system, this very much allows for that incredibly satisfying moment. Like the lightning rhinoceroses. I hated those things, but you know what's great? A big old magic staff made out of the horn of a lightning rhinoceros.
Yep. And the great part about it is there's multiple possible ways you can decide to use that, right? If you have the bladed tail, then you can use that to upgrade your bladed weapon. There's the basics of the system are you collect the parts, then you decide where you're going to apply them, and they'll level up your item in its basic capacities. That's called refining. It's basically like letting the items level up like your character does. So you can level up your sword and it gets +1 and striking and all those kind of things that usually in fundamental runes just innately, because you know what? That blade tail was really awesome. It's made of great stuff. It's going to make your weapon striking. Of course it will. And then, but the other option that you have, once you've refined an item enough, not just weapons and armor either, is that you can imbue a special property into it. So if you beat that lightning rhinoceros and you got its horn, which has lightning in it, you could be like, okay, it's a piercing horn. I can make my lance better at normal ways using the piercing aspect of that rhinoceros. Or I could imbue lightning power into my weapon now. And so you get lots of decisions. And even at that point, I would give you one more decision, which is how are you going to imbue lightning into your weapon? Because in like the runic system, there's sort of one way, you get the shock rune and that's it. Whereas with imbued properties, you get to choose for certain elemental damaging runes in particular, whether you want to go down the might path, the magic path, or the technique path. The might path is kind of similar to basic runes. It's like, I'm going to do the most direct lightning damage or electricity damage, it's the real damage type, that I can. Technique is going to be like, I may do persistent electricity damage and some weird debuffs involving like magnetizing them. And then magic is going to be like, I'm going to shoot lightning bolts and chain lightnings, and I'm doing lightning spells off my sword.
Now, this is running in an Abomination Vault game. It's run by Vanessa Hoskins, and she proposed that maybe we would use this subsystem, this system, however you want it. I don't mean to diminish it by calling it a subsystem.
No, I mean, I call it interchangeably. I can't decide exactly. Like, it sort of replaces a core game system. So it could be a system, but it could be called a subsystem. I think there's no exact terminology.
I actually was told by the Paizo editor that officially Paizo calls these subsystems, but I decided it's a system because it is above a subsystem.
I mean, we would call most change things, like if we made like a kingdom building subsystem, that would be a subsystem. Right. But this is maybe a system because of the fact that it replaces the normal amount of treasure, but it's also maybe a subsystem.
It replaces treasure.
We are stopping this interview until we get to the bottom of whether it's a system or a subsystem.
It's a system.
It's a system. I don't think it's a system until it tells me how to roll characters and do combat.
Well, that's you haven't started. Wait until you start using it. So wait, I want to hear what Ryan has to say, because I know about this game.
Yeah, so Vanessa was proposing we use a subsystem, and it was kind of voted down because of the heebie-jeebies of the system. So is there any argument against how this is not as grotesque and lecherous as it might seem?
Heebie-jeebies?
You mean in the sense of the fact that you're taking parts out of things that you defeat and then using it to make items, kind of can give you the creeps. Objection. So, like, I definitely get that. That's part of why the system for befriending creatures and having them give you special tokens is in there for groups that don't want to do that. Like, groups vary a lot on which of those kinds of things they want to do. My home group is super peaceful a lot of the time in most encounters. Like in Kingmaker, we made friends with nearly everything. So we, honestly, for me, we probably wouldn't kill monsters very much at all. We would have to use the friend version of the system. And it is fair to say that I think the groups that like to fight and defeat monsters, like Perram was saying, and like, we beat that lightning rhinoceros, now let's make it into the lightning weapon, they're going to find it really, really satisfying. But I think that some of the sort of mechanical connection to the story and the narrative of what you're encountering could be satisfying even to groups that really don't like to kill off the opponents that they're fighting, because of the fact that it still makes it feel special that you encountered that particular monster. And that's sort of that's a running theme that I put into all of the things I wrote for this book, because it's not just the system or subsystem. I wrote 2 archetypes as well. And each of them gives you a different reason to care about what you were fighting. Even if the GM throws a random encounter at you with a certain monster. And so in the subsystem, you're like, well, I wanted to imbue fire on my weapon, and it had fire. That's perfect. And the 2 archetypes, which briefly are Monster Mage and Vestige Hunter, one of whom takes spells from the monsters and one of whom takes special abilities. The Monster Mage person might be like, I've been waiting for Fireball, and that fire monster we were just talking about has it. That's great. And the Vestige Hunter might be like, it's got a breath weapon. It was a red dragon, and I wanted a breath weapon. So that could have been a random encounter. And suddenly, multiple players are really excited because it happened to have elements that fixed out well with the things that they were looking to gain. So
Perram, I think you and I just laughed at the same thing.
Yeah, Jaina B in chat. Froghemoth, yes, now I can swallow whole.
Yes, but wouldn't that be amazing,
Can we?
Ryan?
Is that one we're going to be able to do?
You can't swallow whole, but you can take the Froghemoth and make Froghemoth gear. I mean, this happened in our game.
And you could, the Froghemoth, I think, has grab on one of its attacks.
Oh, right.
Who wouldn't want to gain grab? The one where you automatically grab them. Just put the Vestige Hunter could just like put a Froghemoth tongue into its shield, or make its own tongue turn into one if you want to. Vestige Hunters basically, they keep an echo of their great battles, either in their gear, like a dragon head on your shield that breathes up fire, or like just into themselves, like in the story of Sigurd when he defeated the dragon Fafnir and was kind of covered in dragon blood and gained weird powers. So like you could be like, I was covered in Froghemoth blood, now I get this giant tongue that's gonna grab you, or your shield has a tongue come out, or anything like that. So you could get that, but not swallow whole.
I was thinking Simon Belmont with a tongue whip.
There we go.
Yes.
Tongue whip.
Yeah, the tongue whip is maybe more obvious, and I just didn't think of it. That's good.
Totally do that.
And you can constrict them with the tongue whip too, but you need to fight something else that has constrict, because I don't think Froghemoth has it.
This definitely seems to be a system that really benefits the types of campaigns where the party is going to be fending for themselves a lot. Like if there's going to be any survival elements, or you really want to get your Conan the Cimmerian vibe going, it really works there. It does. One of the things I intend to use this system for, even in games where it's not going to be a regular system, is a lot of what Mark hinted at, where just making some treasure extra special. Like you find a whole bunch of red dragon scales, you can imbue that into your armor using this system and get some really sweet things. So even if I don't intend to completely convert a whole campaign to using this as a main system, it's like Mythic. It's a tool in the GM toolbox that I intend to go to often.
That's very shrewd. There's a few things that when you're not using the system that it can do to help you. That's one of them. Another one is that when it comes to shields in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, like they've been created at the amount that a shield should be, but there are a lot of people who kind of want a little more customizability. And at first they'll be like, oh, let's add a sturdy rune onto shields. But then that just makes shields that aren't sturdy shields just way more powerful than sturdy shields. Or this system deconstructs down, so it gives you a baseline shield, then you can imbue sturdy on it. That will get you a sturdy shield, but then you can also not imbue sturdy on it if you want something else. And because it does that, and because it's very transparent how you can replace the base economy with this system, that means that when you're homebrewing your own shields for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you're just going to make one. You now have a progression table you can use. There isn't one in the Game Mastery Guide. There is for any other item you could imagine has a progression table in the Game Mastery Guide, which of course I matched when I was making this system, because we wanted things to match between the two systems. But Shields did not, and now you have one. I came up with it for Steven to make this thing work.
I thought that progression table looked familiar.
I mean, that shield progression table, this is the first time it's ever shown up. But if you mean the progression of anything other than shield, yeah, it's going to match the Game Mastery Guide's progression.
Steven, let's talk about some monsters. You were one of the judges for RPG Superstar, right? You weren't just like the judge puppet master, were you?
Well, not only was I one of the judges, but I then went through and edited every single monster with Patrick Rennie, and then laid them all out and did the final decisions. So yes,
he's the honcho.
I am the honcho. Me and Patrick were the head honchos for all monsters.
All right. As the monster honcho, what were you looking for, like, as a whole, when you knew that this was going to be the Battle Zoo Bestiary? What themes, what, creature level? No, nothing? All right. What were you looking for?
No, I'll tell you how it worked. So because it was a contest, and Perram was one of the judges, so he knows, it was all done online. So we actually have a tool, and you can still use it. It's actually a free tool. If you go to rpgsuperstar.com, you can sign up and make monsters all you want, and it will do all the math for you. It actually lays out the monster, gives you the stat block pretty much perfectly. In fact, I used that tool and then exported out all the monsters from my own website and laid them into the book. And that's saved me a gargantuan amount of time, and it kept all the errors to a minimum. So
you're not just the president, you're the client.
That's pretty much. So I told Paizo, I'm like, you guys, if you want to cut down the typos, you might want to talk to me, because this thing does everything for you. So yeah, it actually did that. But what happened is the monsters came in, they were all anonymous, and they just went to the judges, and the judges just went through, and there was multiple categories, and they ranked them from 1 to 10. And I actually did talk to Mark and Linda about how to do even the judging beforehand. So we came
Some
up
of
with
the math and like the algorithm of how to work it out.
And we figured out I basically came up with an algorithm so that it would do weighting judging in case like everyone, because it was very common that everyone gave a lot of 10s or a lot of 1s in the public judging. So we figured out an algorithm to even that out. So what ended up happening is, the judges went through, they judged everything. They got a percentage of the monsters. They didn't get all of them. And then after that, we came up with 101 winners. And from the 101 winners, those were judged publicly on the same criteria. Yeah, the same criteria. And that was it. And it was all anonymous. And then at the end, we ranked them. And we ranked them from grand prize to platinum to gold to silver to copper. And
I actually have a question for Perram on that, because I've done some of these interviews with you before, Stephen, but we've never had one of the other judges.
Oh, that's right. So yeah.
What was the process? What was the process like for you as a judge? That's what I'm interested in, because I wasn't the judge.
It was fairly easy, thankfully. Stephen makes really great websites. It's kind of Stephen's gig. It also, Stephen helped fix our website, so thanks, Stephen. And so like it had this really cool interface where we would just have this list of monsters that we were assigned, and we could just go down the list and pull it up into view and then look at it and then make comments about what we thought about it, and then ultimately score it. And we figured out pretty quickly that like we didn't have the whole massive fire hose of monsters. We only had a small fire hose of monsters. It was still a lot of monsters. And there were some gems, and then there were some not gems, and it was fun going through there. It was also fun, like seeing the trends. Like a whole bunch of people really liked making evil constructs. A whole bunch of people loved making really evil fae. And seeing what was going on through there. But overall, it was a process as painless as it could be. I really enjoyed it, getting to read some of the inspiring and creative monsters when they popped up. It's nice seeing them like fully fleshed out with artwork, with horrible skin crawling artwork.
Oh no!
That I'd like flipping through this. This is like body horror, the monster manual. If I had to give it a theme,
hey.
Did you see any that
only some of them.
Okay, I'm looking at the hook melon right now.
All right, the hook
I'm going to go ahead and pull that up.
Nasty. I'll give you.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up on.
I'm
going to pull it up now.
The hook melon is.
If I can find the button.
Yeah. There. So anyhow, to answer your. This is ironically the spread was pretty good. Up there's the hook hanger and the hook melon. Hey, hook melon. Yeah, it's a big tree. And it's a melon that looks like a human torso, and it will grab nearby creatures like a deer and start eating them. And it also can move, so it can like sort of like wander around a little. And that's it. It's just a plant that likes to eat living flesh. That's all.
Right. So like here's a picture of the Hearthhound, just to palate cleanse.
The Hearthhound
is the goodest. It's a goodest boy. I really love this one.
The Hearthhound is great.
Yeah, that's not body horror.
No, it's cute.
No.
I actually had that one. You want to talk about art from the art world?
I do want to talk about art.
I did that one 3 times. because I wasn't happy with it. In fact, I wanted to just because it's hard to get. I tell you, it's very easy to make monsters horrible, but to make them cute and cuddly, and because that's actually not even like a monster, it's a guardian that helps out like families. Like after the dog dies, if the spirit of the dog appears and then guards you at the fireplace, and it's actually a very nice monster. It's a very nice creature, and it's hard to get that like feeling of just like of a harmless creature. So those are the tougher ones, believe it or not. Hookmelon was easy. Like death and destruction, that's easy. Cute and cuddly, that's hard.
A harmless creature with a fire breath and powerful health.
Hey man, they're a guardian of the family.
Yeah, they have to be able to protect the family, or
That's
else
right.
it's not going to work.
It's also not the only nice set things on fire monster in this book. There's the wildfire Leshy, which is like pyromancer Leshy.
Wildfire Leshy is becoming an ancestry.
A heritage.
Heritage. That Linda
or the Leshy ancestry.
That Linda's
Here's
writing.
the art for that one. It's so adorable. Love it to pieces.
Noted Leshy ancestry master Linda.
Yes. She has to do all of them, and she jumped on that one. Yeah, that's part of the overall Kickstarter. But yeah, we're doing new ancestries, new heritages on some of the more popular monsters, and also the ones that, who doesn't want to play a Wildfire Leshy? I mean, that's a good idea right there. It's like a Leshy from burnt embers and burnt wildfire husks, and I'm like, that's a great idea. No one thought of it before, and there we go, we won. So. But yeah,
since we're talking about art, I do just want to give an overall kudos to just the quality of the art in the book. It is something that you are known for at Roll for Combat, but this, if like for any stigma that people might have going into a third-party product, this is absolutely on par with a Paizo published bestiary as far as the art of these monsters. And there is art for each monster, which is expensive.
Yep.
And not just art, like very high quality art. Like I've seen a lot of third-party bestiary books, and I can understand where you have to cut some corners there. But this is like a lot of these are art styles that even look familiar. So like this is like really fantastic.
Yeah, half of the artists are from Paizo.
Oh,
about half of them. Yeah.
That's definitely something throughout the process for the art, for the authors, just for everyone, which is that Stephen really spared no expense to make this a very deluxe product. So like I'm hoping that it turns out that lots of people love it and it pays him back for that. But part of me is worried. It's like I hope it
find out. We'll find out.
Did you
He's
go
taking a gamble.
Did you go full John Hammond on this, Stephen?
Pretty much. But the thing is, how can you? But art is so important, and more importantly is that I have a lot of artists that I work with, and some of these artists were new. Like I found a whole bunch of new Russian artists, and they're really good. They're reasonable, and they came out with amazing. Here, bring up the Shingle Lurk. That's
I love amazing. That one.
That one is just that one's cute and cuddly. It's literally this new guy. I never worked with him before. I gave him an idea, and he sends me this, and I'm like, wow,
here he is.
Here's 10 more monsters. I was like, damn, man. I was like, look at that thing.
Yeah, it's like that poor cat.
I know, the poor cat.
Great.
It's like,
I know. and even the little things like that, it's like, but again, also my day job, I do build, Fortune 500 websites. I do have a lot of experience with art direction and with creativity. So I was able to, that's the part I was able to work with. It's like work with the artists and very, very easily give them direction as to like what they should do with certain, art. But yeah, we tried to mix it up. About half of the artists are actually literally from Paizo. In fact, if you look at all the half-page,
we're literally from Paizo freelancers, right?
Freelancers, that's what
not
I meant.
literally.
No, they're
actually
in
Paizo.
Okay, they're not from Paizo. But the half-pagers, that is the same artist that did all the Extinction Curse half-page art. So it's I forget who is that. That is, he did. I literally said, "Oh my God, I love your art. You want to do some of my half pagers?" And he's like, "Sure." I was like, "Oh, great." Miguel Harkins. He did.
Nice.
He does a lot of Paizo work,
It's definitely just a really cool experience, and I'm sure it's really cool for the participants. I would have loved to have an RPG Superstar when I was getting into the industry, where 101 people, or 101 monsters at least, could win and be published with like this level of quality for sort of the art and the products, and with their name on the page. Like that is so cool for the authors who are writing it, because when Paizo was doing RPG Superstar, ultimately there was only one winner who got published out of that contest. Now other people sometimes got Paizo freelancing gigs if they made it far enough, but this is just a lot more in terms of getting people into the industry, getting people into having a credit, than sort of any of these contests have done in the past.
And I really kind of like how this kind of felt a little bit more old school too, from what I'm used to with monster books. Because first, the quality of the monsters is actually really high because they did go through the contest, and it's obvious they've been edited well. I recognize, because I've read some of these monsters, they weren't this well written when I read them. Not all of them. Nope. and some of these have been definitely like the language has been cleaned up. But it goes back to that. I'm reading a Monster Manual 3 kind of grab bag of really goofy, cool ideas. And instead of, sometimes when we're reading Paizo Bestiaries, which I love the Paizo Bestiaries, we rant about how great they are, but they do have sort of these like big overarching themes. Like this is a theme throughout this bestiary. There's these 4 or 5 different big types of monsters that are going to show up and be repeated over, but whereas this is like a surprise on every page, even if there is like a few mini themes that just sort of popped up randomly, like monsters that take your eyeballs. That was a weird thing to see more than once.
The vultures wanted their eyeballs taken.
Cloaked Gouger, he's really cool. That guy, he has a cloak made of eyes, and he likes to collect eyes. And if he steals your eyes and you're really nice to him, he'll give them back.
I'm glad he gives them back. Yeah, that's great.
There's a whole thing, the site. So actually, let me tell you that process. So this is the other thing. All the winning monsters are on the RPG Superstar website. You can see them. And those were the unedited versions. So you can see what they look like, the quote before. So I hired Patrick Rennie, who I call Mr. Monster, because he loves monsters. Whenever I've made monsters for Paizo, almost always it's through Patrick or Ron, and he just loves monsters. And he went through, he did the polish of all the monsters. He knows the secret math, because there is like some secret math that they don't tell you exactly, certain how numbers have to line up. So he did that to make sure it like had the same level as a Paizo product. He also wrote all the sidebars. So every single monster has a sidebar, and that's something you see obviously in a bestiary. That is just extra lore that you can't get into the main lore easily. And sometimes we even added more. In fact, actually the Prized Eyes one and the Cloak Gouger, actually I wrote, no, he wrote the Prized Eyes, I wrote the Gouger Cloak. I wrote that one. So, between the two of us, he would go through it and then submit it. And then I would go through it again, and I would do the, okay, does this make sense pass? Like, I made sure like this as a GM, I was going to have to run this. Like, does this make sense? Because are the PCs going to like poke a hole in this? And that's where I went through. And then after we did layout, Patrick went through it again and did copy fit, because we made sure that it fits every single page. And this is something you don't see, it's something you don't see in a lot of other third parties, is that they have white space. They lay it out to however big they think it fits. And then if there's extra space on the page, so be it. That's not how Paizo does it. Paizo makes it fit exactly the same on every page. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work to make everything fit perfectly. And he went through and did copy fit and made sure every single thing fit perfectly on every page. And he also wrote some of the families for the Platinum and the Grand Prize. And there you go. That's how you make a high-level monster. It's really easy. You just got to do all that.
We did talk earlier that RPG Superstar is one of our favorite community projects, and it really does feel like this product embraces the community aspect of it, because like we've been saying, the credit is on the page, so much so that a freelancer could show that page and it's like, look, my name's there. This is the color of the level of my win, gold, bronze, whatever, and it like you've helped fill in the gaps so that it's not just I have to read this monster. The art is there, the whole presentation is there, and it really just sells the freelancer that's showing off this piece. And then also by saying that you've got the unedited versions and then the developed versions in the page, people who really want to get into the industry now have this great tool of like, look at the monster that was submitted, see like, this was good enough to win the contest, then see what kind of changes had to be made to make it good enough to be published. Like there's a lot that you can learn from this product, and it's valuable to people that are in it and valuable to people that want to be in the next one, maybe.
No, there'll be another one. And
All right.
what ended up happening is, in fact, I've been talking to the winners a lot on the Roll for Combat Discord and telling them, why things were changed or what the difference was. And I've said it before, but the difference between copper and gold or platinum or grand was not the concept of the monster. Actually, Perram knows this because he did the editing, he did the judging, is that it really had to do with mechanics, and it had to do with understanding how to write a monster, because a monster is interesting. It's very hard and easy to do at the same time, because to write a monster and come up with an idea is not that hard, you think. But then getting everything right, figuring out the languages, the skills it needs, figuring out hit points, immunities, resistances, what special abilities it has, how many actions it takes, what melee attacks it has, what ranged attacks, what's their reach on those, what special abilities, what spells. It's like, and then formatting it perfectly, which is an art, let me tell you. And that's the difference. Like the highest level monsters were pretty much like almost ready to use. Like they were just laid out almost perfectly. And the lower level ones, like the ones that were copper, were really good ideas that just had formatting issues, layout issues, or just they didn't use the right verbiage. And that was the difference.
Right. And like the one, and then just to finish there, the ones that like wouldn't have even placed, there's like had no grasp of how the system or balance was put together, or it might have been a really cool idea, but then like there's no way on earth that is ever going to make it into a book mechanically kind of situations. So yeah, like the concept was important, but backing up that concept in a way that showed you understood how Pathfinder 2 worked was very important.
Yeah, and sorry, Ryan.
Are you?
You go, Ryan.
All right. Where did the Battle Zoo theme come from?
Oh, so Battle Zoo. That is first I own the URL, and this is something I've been working on for about 25 years. Let's just say Battle Zoo, people are like, what does Battle Zoo mean? Well, there's going to be Battle Zoo Bestiary, and then there's going to be Battle Zoo Ancestry's Dragon, and there's going to be the Battle Zoo Adventure Indigo Isles Adventure Path.
The Indigo Isles.
Yeah, Jewel of the Indigo Isles Adventure Path. And then there will be another book that Mark and I are working on that will tie it all together. That you'll find out what Battle Zoo actually means. But let's just say it's the beginning of a larger system that I've been working on. But it has something to do with fighting monsters and things. I'll leave it at that. But it's something I've been working on for a long time. I mean, this didn't come out of nowhere. Like this concept, and I was talking to even Perram about this before I even did the book. It's like, I have had this concept, and I'm sure lots of people have had for a long time. It's like, wouldn't it be cool to like use parts of monsters and use monsters more than just I kill them and they're big bags of XP? Like they are the most important part of the game. In fact, that's an old adage from the video game world, is that you're only as good as your monsters. And that's especially true with MMOs. Like that's what makes good MMOs and good video games is the monsters, not necessarily the classes. The classes are almost secondary. And in a weird way, if you think about it, yes, classes are important in ancestries, but the monsters is what everyone remembers and what connects everyone, no matter what you're playing. As you say, the Froghemoth is your favorite, and exactly, like that has connected you between all editions of role playing. So monsters are very important. So I've always thought like we need to expand upon the monsters' contribution to the game, and this is only the first step. There's going to be many more steps after this.
Didn't you like register the Battle Zoo name like years ago?
like only 25 years ago.
Okay.
Like they had domain registries back then.
I've had things registered since '88.
Yeah, 25 years ago was mid-90s.
Yeah, mid '90s. That's when. Yeah, I had a lot. That's how I Glicker.com. I have everything.
Let's talk about Jewel of the Indigo Isles. Why is there also an adventure path attached to this?
What?
Why not at this
Who told me that? No one told me that. Oh my god, that's a lot of work. Oh, okay. So this is what happened. I finished the book, and then everyone said to me after the book was done, "Hey, what are we working on next?" Like literally all the Paizo editors I was working with and the artists, and they're like, "This has been so much fun. Let's do something else." And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And to be honest, it was so much fun working on this book. I thought, okay, why not? And then Mark came to me and said, "Steve, I really want to make it that you can play a dragon, like a real dragon, like a dragon ancestry, like a real dragon wearing clothes, and I'm not just a dragonkin. Can you help me out here, buddy?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll
Like,
foot the bill for that." And
I have been like noodling around with it like since the beginning, but also I didn't think I could afford to order art for it and not like lose money on that. But Steven was thinking that if it could come into this bigger framework, that could be a way to make it work, and it's something I wanted to do for a long time. So when I suggested it to him, he's like, "Yeah, sure, we'll add it to the Kickstarter as a stretch goal."
and then Jewel of the Indigo Isles was, well, this is what happened. I was talking to Patrick, because obviously Patrick Rennie, he and I worked on this together. And then Ron Lundeen, and he's like, "Hey, can I help out?" And I'm like, "Sure. What do you want to do?" He's like, "What do you think? I want to write an adventure." I was like, "Okay, I got 2 of the adventure path leads on my team. What should I do?" I'm like, "This is,
You have 2 out of 2
I
Pathfinder
did
adventure
too.
path
I
leads.
had 2 out of 2.
And
I'm like,
you were soon to pick up the lead of digital adventures.
and then I got a third one because I was like, all right, 3 book adventure paths, because I don't want to go too crazy. And then I'm like, I can't do 2 books. I need to have a third. So I convinced Linda, Lindsay Palmer, to join the fray, and so she's writing the third book. And from there, Patrick and I came up with the initial concept, and I can tell you a little bit about it because I finally finished the outline, and I have learned all about writing adventure paths from Ron and Patrick. It's very fun. I'm learning all these new skills. And
oh yeah, and you learned from Linda how Linda is just so great at picking apart plot lines,
she
finding
found
all of the possible holes.
Very few plot holes. And let me tell you, very few.
Yeah, no,
Like
it was
this
really
many.
good considering it was a 55-page outline.
It's
like
up to
Linda
67.
Yeah, Linda usually finds more than that in like one scenario when she started out. Like she's done I guess hundreds of scenarios now, and she always finds everything and figures out a way to make to fix it like pretty quickly and easily.
Well, so that was the thing. They said you have to write up the whole adventure, so I did, and it took about 3 weeks, and it's now 67 pages. It's about 30,000 words, and that's just the outline. And here's the funny thing: that's just the outline for the adventure. That does not include actually. It doesn't include like actually any of the like dungeons or anything like that. It just includes like, this is how you get from point A to point B. You can do the rest. And
it's none of the main text. Like this is why, Ryan, when you said how does Steven even find the time, like how did I don't even know.
It took a lot of time, but it actually went really fast. And then so the adventure is here. This is what I'm going to give you the adventure. It is Pixar meets Indiana Jones, and it's 3 books. And the first book is, we just finalized the titles. We have Search for the Pirate's Pendant, and the second one is Voyage to Runaway Reef, and the last one is Battle at Barnacle Bay. So Search for the Pirate's Pendant is being written by Patrick. Voyage to the Runaway Reef is being written by Ron, and the last one, Battle at Barnacle Bay, is being written by Linda. And it is basically takes place on the Indigo Isles, which is our own Battle Zoo Bestiary, Battle Zoo world called Alakar. and it, remarkably is very similar to Earth. I don't know how this keeps happening. Like Galarian similar to Earth, Alucard similar to Earth. It just happens a lot.
There's just one planet.
Yeah, but there's just one planet. They just have different names.
It's alternate realities of one planet.
It just makes things easier. And the Indigo Isles is a chain of isles. It's very similar to Hawaii. It's not Hawaii, but it's similar. And there are actually, we took a lot of the bestiary beasts and made ancestries for them. And the main bestiary beast that lives on these isles are the Gamayan. And somebody just finished the other day a 6,500 word ancestry for the amazing Gamayan. In fact, you want to talk about art? I have a good story if you want to bring up the art for the Gamayan.
Yeah, I got to pull this up.
That one's on page 34. So the Gamayan are parrot people. And the artist, this was the first or second one I ever did. And the artist just made a parrot person who looks like a pirate. And that is literally responsible for so much now, because we're like, oh my God, it's a parrot person who looks like it's a parrot person who looks like a pirate. Oh my God, it's a Gamayan pirate. Oh my God, we're building an entire adventure path out of parrots. And it just has gone out of control. And in fact, someone even wrote recently, they said, oh my God, you need to put a parrot on the pirate parrot. So he has a little parrot on his shoulder. So Mark wrote a level 1 feat that you can get a pet parrot as an ancestry feat.
Yep. I mean, you had to. I mean, Steven, you told me about that, and you said that you want to add things when people ask for it. So yeah, you can get a parrot familiar to follow you around, or other tropical bird, because Gamayan are not always parrots.
Yes.
So now we just need to make sure that they are able to ride the parrot bears, and then you have a parrot on a parrot on a parrot.
I forgot it. Yes, the parrot bears.
A parrot bear animal companion.
That's right.
We could. That's a good point.
That's a good point. Actually, and this has been the fun part. Like when people come up with ideas, because we work so fast, we just add them. Like someone came up with that parrot idea like a week ago, and I told Mark, and now it's in there. And someone actually, in our own game, someone was saying, actually it was Lauren, the troublemaker, said, can you get monster parts from hazards or haunts? And I'm like, oops, Mark, add it. And we added it. So now you can get, monster parts from hazards and haunts. But when people come up with good ideas, we just add them because we're still writing a lot of the books and coming up with them.
Yep. So, Lauren also at one point was like, what if you had free archetype? But you already had the ability that Vestige Hunter grants at I think it was like 4th level or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll put in another feat at 4th level in case you already had that one that was there at 4th level and you were on free archetype, so you needed to take it at 4th level.
Yep. But it's a pirate adventure. You start off, you're looking for, there's this Poppy Van Barnacle, and you are members of the town of Rumplank in the Isle of Goldcrop. And the Isle of Goldcrop is tropical paradise. Most of the population is Gamayan. It's about 8,000 population. And they are pirates, but they are Pirates of the Caribbean pirates. They're fun-loving pirates. They like to party, and they like to look for treasure. That is the pirates they are. They are the fun-loving pirates. They don't even know what pirates are because there's no boats that visit them. And the founder of the island, Poppy Van Barnacle, she was a pirate who was big into treasure hunting. And she founded the town about 250 years ago. And there's always been rumors that she has treasure somewhere in the isle, but no one's ever found it. I mean, there's no treasure. It's just a rumor until one day someone gets a lead. Could it be the PCs might find a map to a special spot that could lead to a treasure? Maybe a pirate's pendant? Who knows? You got to play the book. But the cool thing is, every single monster in the adventure path is from the Battle Zoo Bestiary.
Every single one. Wow.
Every single one. There's a couple new ones. There's going to be 18 new monsters at the minimum because we still wanted to add, we still have to add some here and there.
So they're not all for the Battle Zoo Bestiary,
Yeah,
but
I
they're
feel
not
lied
from
to.
any source other than the adventure or the Battle Zoo Bestiary.
Well,
Is that
okay,
right?
so right. They're not from either the adventure or the Battle Zoo Bestiary. But even then, we're using, for example, Patrick came up with the Orporks, which he thought, well, it's kind of Hawaii and there's pigs, so pig people. So now that's going to be a new ancestry. They're like, we don't even have them yet, but there's these pig people. Actually, I could send it to you, Perram. I have this is a super sneak preview. I even just have the preview of what these people look like. And these are pig people that will be on some of the other islands, and they also take up part of the adventure path. And as we come up with new ones, we'll get Mark a writing, and he'll come up with new ancestries that people can play these in the adventure path. But it gets pretty crazy. I won't get too much into it because I don't want to spoil it, but the adventure path will take you a lot of places, and it brings you places. I'll put it this way. During our meeting, we had a meeting last week, and Linda, highest compliment I think I've ever gotten in my life, and Ron said there was stuff in here that they have never seen before, and like a lot of stuff. And that was the goal, to put new things and new adventures and new hooks that just have never been done. And between myself, who's played about a third of all the adventure paths, and Linda and Ron and Patrick, we're trying to make this something really, really, really special that is just breaking every mold possible. And because we're all working together, it'll be very cohesive, so that things that happen at level 1 are going to affect level 10. So you're going to see connections throughout the entire book. It's not being written in silos, and everyone's going to edit each other's work. So everyone's going to make sure that all their parts connect. So it's going to be one massive super adventure.
So this is really cool because it also sounds like both this bestiary and what I'm hearing about the adventure path actually sounds more Starfinder than Pathfinder. Like, I'm sure it's going to be Pathfinder 2 rules, but I'm seeing a ton of your love of Starfinder kind of influencing it here, because this is really fun. You're playing a Pixar movie. This seems like something I'd see out of like some of the stuff Thirsty put together, and the bestiary itself. It's this short bestiary, like it's the thin type because it's 170 some pages, and it's a really cool bestiary with a lot of randomness and a cool subsystem that ties into it in the back. And that's what I'm used to from an Alien Archive. So it's like a lot of the stuff I love about Starfinder in my Pathfinder 2. And I'm always welcoming stuff I love about Starfinder in my Pathfinder 2.
Correct. I literally just had a meeting with Patrick yesterday, and this is exactly what we talked about. And we're saying how like Starfinder has become Guardians of the Galaxy, whether they intended to or not, but they've gone full Guardians of the Galaxy. And when I played it and we did our podcast, it was so much fun, and it was really kind of goofy. And Pathfinder can be goofy, but it's a little bit more serious, and there can be goofy aspects. But this is going to be closer to Starfinder. It's going to be Pathfinder, but Starfinder.
Pause.
Oop.
5 seconds. Go.
Oh, so I don't know where I was cut off, but I was saying is that you're completely right, Perram, is that I told them this is going to be fun. It's going to be goofy. Think Legend of Zelda, think Pixar, think Starfinder, Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. However, one very important thing about Pixar movies is that they always have very, very scary scenes in them, if you've noticed, which is not actually on purpose. Like, think about Finding Nemo. There's some really scary stuff in that movie. And even like Toy Story 3, holy moly, is that movie scary. Exactly.
There's darkness in that movie.
There's a lot of darkness in those movies. Well, we're going to have that too. Let me promise you. It's going to go there. So
by what page will you make me cry?
Every page. Now you will cry. Actually, Linda's book is the oh my god, what is going on book. So I told her that. I said, I'm sorry, I gave you like probably the hardest adventure I've ever seen. And she was so excited. She's like, oh my god, this is such a challenge. I was like, good. I'm glad you like it because it's gonna be tough, but she can't wait to do it. So I'm excited.
So how does this work with the Kickstarter? Because the Battle Zoo Bestiary, it's nice. I know that there's still some work to do on it, and it's great. So, like, what is the Kickstarter going to look like? Are you pledging for the Bestiary? Are you pledging for the Adventure Path? How's this work?
You can. The main goal was the Battle Zoo Bestiary, and so the lowest tier is really just Battle Zoo Bestiary PDF or the Battle Zoo Bestiary, and then I also did a lot of add-ons. And I did the pricing similar to what Paizo does, so I tried to keep it in line. So you can get the Dragon Ancestries book as a PDF or physical hard copy, and the Adventure Path you can get as a PDF or physical hard copy. So you can mix and match. The one nice thing, I actually have a tier where you can just make your own. Or there's going to be, whoops, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. There's going to be a tier where you have the Battle Zoo Bestiary, and where you could just get all the PDFs, or you can get all 3 books and all PDFs. And then we're going to add some extra fun things like everyone's been asking, like digital assets. We're going to give out digital assets so that you have all the monsters, all the artwork, so you can use it yourself. We've been talking to Foundry VTT. That will be an add-on because that will have to come after everything's done. But we're going to make this for Foundry VTT. We're actually a partner with Roll20, so we're going to have it for Roll20 as well. And I'm in the process of talking to Path Builder to add all of I'm actually talking to him right now. I'm talking to Dave, and we're going to get all the ancestries, and we're working on it. It's not promised yet, but so far it looks good. We're going to get all the new ancestries and the new items and the new backgrounds and the new archetypes in Path Builder, so you can be as simple as possible to make your own and use the books. There is a special edition cover and special edition version of the Battle Zoo Bestiary that will only be available through the Kickstarter. That one has a special alternate cover. It's going to have gold on the side. I always like the gold gilding where they put the gold, like you see those like on Bibles and stuff. I always thought that's nice. It has bookmarks. It'll have special leaves inside. We're probably going to put your name in there. We're working on that to get everyone's name in it. And it's just going to be a much higher quality version than the regular one. And it's only through the Kickstarter. Other than that, we're looking at other things like pins and stickers, vinyl stickers, like really nice ones. I'm trying to add value and things people want rather than like, I see a lot of these Kickstarters and people are adding like plushies, which are fine, except they add a lot to the shipping and they sit on your shelf and you don't do anything with them. So I'm trying to get a lot of bang for buck. So it won't add a lot to your shipping. It won't add a lot to the pledge. And it's something you would actually want, and if you don't, you could just make your own bundle however you want.
I mean, you don't want a plushie, Steven, but like Linda
Linda
has kickstarted plushies that the only Kickstarter is for a plushie.
I know. Well,
like there's an owlbear.
I know it's not that I don't want plushies. I do like plushies, but the problem with plushies is that it actually increases the price significantly because you can't use media mail anymore. So
right.
But yes, I'm trying to keep the pricing down for anyone who's buying the physical book, and I'm trying to keep it very reasonable. And that's something a lot of people have expressed that they want to, try to keep this because it's 3 books, and I'm trying to keep it a reasonable for everyone. And but if people like go crazy and like, I want owlbear plushie, or not owlbear, I want
parrot bear
plushie. I'm like, all right, well.
Jana B is arguing in the chat for the Hook Melon plushie. Nope.
Oh dear.
Nope.
Oh dear.
Nope. Nope.
But just circle back to the question though, about the Kickstarter though, Steven, is at its base, is it to help defray like the printing costs for the print run? Is part of why the Battle Zoo Bestiary itself is going to the Kickstarter? Because I mean,
well, that was
like we've said, we already have the text of it in.
Yeah, we have most of it already. And then what ended up happening is originally, I'll tell you what happened. You know what happened? COVID happened. Because originally, no, seriously, originally the plan was we were going to print up the book and we were going to go to Gen Con, and we were going to sell them with the Paizo booth, most likely. I mean, this wasn't set in stone, but we're just going to make it, selling it with Paizo at their booth, and that probably would have been it. And then after that, we would have put it out through normal channels. Well, they're not going to Gen Con, and and there's no Paizo booth. So I was like, uh-oh, now what? Like, I have this book and I want to sell it. And a lot of people were like, well, why don't we do a Kickstarter? But that's why I said, okay, I got to add value. I can't just do one book. So then it kind of got out of control. So there you go. That's the answer.
I do remember, like, is this add-ons and cool integration for the Kickstarter? So maybe I missed it, but the one thing that I think you could definitely use is pawn sets.
What do you mean?
You've got all the cool art.
Mm-hmm.
You can still ship it as media mail, I believe. Mm-hmm. Why don't we have a Battle Zoo Bestiary pawn set?
You mean a physical pawn set?
I would like that, yes.
Really?
Why? What do you mean, really?
Honestly, that is like a popular request for any bestiary, third-party bestiaries to have the, like, I know that Kobold does it for their bestiaries too. Is like little pawns of all the monsters.
Yeah,
so,
it's not
because I'm not going to find the blood parrot, a parrot bear monster mini somewhere.
I say I'm a little disconnected from the physical world because we do all of our playing online, and I've been doing it online for about 12 years, like way before the COVID happened. And the only time I do a physical is at Gen Con or PaizoCon. So, okay. I mean, I'll look into it. I actually was looking at, I've seen the plastic ones, those clear plastic ones. I actually like those a lot. But
those are great.
Yeah, that's like a different company. Yeah,
ArcKnight does those, and we've interviewed them before. They do really cool spell effect templates. Yeah, when I was at Gen Con.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, it's literally just layout, printing, and shipping. It's not that one's actually not that hard to do because I already have the art, and it's just punching it out. It's not that hard.
So, what's this terrible thing you just sent me, Steven?
Well, that's the blood mouse. I just wanted to show you that.
Oh, no!
I thought you meant those. Those are the digital. I am doing digital tokens so that you can use them in your games.
That's handy.
That's and that's actually anyone who orders it will get those for free. But there's an example of one. So that's the blood mouse, and it is the answer to the lifelong question people have had: what happens if you take a mouse and pair it with a mosquito? And there you go, you get a blood mouse.
And Stranger Things.
Hey man, I didn't make it. That's the thing.
Lucas Servideo, friend of the show, Lucas Servideo made the blood mouse. So shout
there
out
you
to
go.
Lucas.
That's right. He made the blood mouse.
I don't want this to get lost. The Archbaron in chat is saying he wants bestiary monster cards, which now I want that too.
I actually was looking at monster cards. It's really hard to get them on one card. That's the thing. You have to do like 3 or 4 cards. The monster cards is a possibility. I'm actually using.
It was tricky at Paizo with the battle cards, even though those cards are pretty big cards.
It's really hard. I'm using the exact same printer that Paizo uses, so I have a huge advantage that when I say, "Oh, can we look at battle cards?" they know exactly what I'm talking about because they printed them. So I have been talking about pretty much everything you're talking about. I've looked at maps. I've looked at battle cards. I've looked at the tokens. I'm not against it, but to be honest, and I'm just being dead serious, like you really have to print a minimum like 1,000 of these before you can even start getting even minimal price breaks. So, I'd be happy to do it, but if only 500 or even 100 people want these, it's going to be way too expensive.
That might make more sense to see how well the basic book does first, because if that's super popular, then that could mean that some of the other form factors might be worth a print run. Whereas if we put it out for the book and it's sold 1,000 Battle Zoo Bestiaries in total, then that's going to be different if you have to have 1,000 battle cards as your minimum run.
Well, I mean, that's literally what stretch goals are. You could just say,
you're right,
1,000 backers before we can even unlock this.
You are completely right. And actually, that's something I have been working on, stretch goals. And I have no problem with that. Like, if this becomes really big and people want that, I will definitely add it. No problem. I mean, we have the assets. That's actually why we're giving out so many virtual assets, because I have them. And it drives me crazy. It drives me nuts when I get the Paizo products and the monsters are cut off and I'm like, oh, where's the tail? Where's the wing? I want the wing. It drives me nuts. So I'm like, here you have, and almost I'd say about 90% of the monsters are not cut off. I'd say 95. I purposely put them on the page so you can get the full picture. But every so often, who knew dragons are really big? Dragons always have to get cut off. I couldn't fit them on the page that well. So
wings will do it.
Wings
like
are
the Gate Archon in Bestiary 5, its wings are spreading out so much that it like does almost nothing, and it has almost no lore. It lost some of its gate abilities because it was just like, "Hwah!"
And that's why we're giving out the digital assets, so you can do whatever you want with them. If you want to, if you're going online, you'll have them. If you want to print them out, I do that myself. I have printouts. I could definitely do a PDF printout that will have everything within 1 inch or 2 inch. That's easy to do. I actually do that for my own games, and then have that as something to give out people so that they can at least print out their own pawns easily enough.
Wow, that's it sounds like it's a ambitious project, though. So I'm definitely looking to see
Very
when this
ambitious.
thing's done.
What?
Honestly, when Steven's been, I've been helping do some proofreading for Steven, and he's shown me some cool stuff as this has been developed, and like as it has grown, I've been like, Steven, are you crazy? This is a lot. Why?
Not that bad. I know it sounds like a lot. I know it's I don't know. I can't describe it. It's I mean, I do have a team. I mean, me and like 3 other people. So, it's not like all by myself, but
well, when you showed me the Kickstarter video and was, I taught myself Premiere. It's fun. It's not hard.
What do you want? Yes, that's the problem. It's like I needed to teach myself Premiere, so we had a video. And then, but I already knew how to write. That's the trick. Is I have a degree. I already knew how to do, PageMaker, in this case, InDesign. So do the layout was not hard. I mean, I was able to do the book. I mean, you can find other people, but to be honest, it was just allowed me a greater level of control, especially with the amount of edits, because there were so many edits in the monsters. Is that if we had someone else, it goes much slower. So this way, it just was able to go much faster. But that's also, and this goes back to me hiring Mark and Linda and Ron and Patrick, like I'm hiring professional designers. This is all they do. This is his full-time job, their full-time jobs. They know how to do this. I don't have to sit there teaching them the math of a Pathfinder, anything. They know exactly what they're doing. That's actually why I hired Mark for the monster part system, because I had the idea for monster parts, but I had no idea how to balance it. And I can't stress this enough, is that it is balanced perfectly with Pathfinder, because it uses the exact same math that Mark wrote for the core rules. Yeah. So it's perfect.
I mean, I re-derived at home a similar system based on the math that I wrote for the core rules that matches up exactly. It's not it's not literally reiterating the same thing, but yes, it
close.
It gets you there, and it is much more versatile in how much you're able to spend. In exchange, the basic rune system, like there are some like flashpoint levels where it's like, okay, the basic runes got it for a little cheaper at this level, and now they can never get better again for like 6 levels. Whereas with monster parts, you're just constantly getting better and getting more improvement all over the time. And that's just to make sure it wasn't overpowered as a whole, because if at the best possible level for the rune system, it was still worse, and then it just got better and better for monster parts at all the other levels, then that would be power creep.
Yeah. When I was looking over that system, because I knew we were going to do this breakdown, that one of the first things I did was like go back and forth. Like I need to make sure this isn't broken, because like an ambitious system like this could be broken. But at the same time, like I mean this with all the kindness and respect I can, Mark. I read this, I'm like, yeah, Mark wrote this. This is got the level of solid math I expect out of stuff that Mark makes.
Yeah. Well, Mark,
that sounds kind and respectful to me.
It is, because Mark and I and you, Perram, have talked about this many times, that games are math. They basically are math systems with a lot of fancy things on top of them.
Mhm.
But at the heart and soul of these systems really is math. And if the math is wrong, the systems don't work, which is why I was so adamant on making sure Mark helped me on this system. Because, I can come up with ideas, but implementing it is, that I think there was only a handful of people in this world who could have done it correctly. So
And I will say I almost entirely agree with you on that, Stephen. But I would say that math is the brain of the system, and the heart and soul is
oh yeah,
the story and the story and the narrative, and that you combine them like the four magical essences, and you get something special.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. But that's at least for Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is definitely more crunchy than other systems. So you got to make sure you get the math right, because if you don't, things get broken quickly. So I do want to mention one thing is that you are depriving yourself, because as someone who's used the monster part system, I will say that for the first time I can't even remember the last time this ever happened. For the first time I've played role-playing games, that using the monster part system has opened up a brand new dimension to role-playing, because it's one thing like, okay, you have your archetype, and you have your ancestry, and you have your class, and you have your spells, all right, and that kind of defines you, and plus you have your actual physical role playing. But who cares what, you have a weapon. Oh, you got a longsword. Oh, it's a longsword +1. All right, cool. And you got, I got armor. Well, once you start monster parts, no, you have a longsword that you got from a mimic that now changes shape while you're fighting, or you have armor that you got from a like a golem that you fought, and you now have like runic symbols inside of it that
and
was
fortification against critical hits or something.
Exactly. I mean, like, you suddenly are role playing your equipment, and your equipment has levels, and there's the system. The way it works is you don't have to make something based on the rules. Like, you just come up with the concept, and that's it. And so, for example, when we were playing, and I think, was it Lauren who killed centipedes? And I was like, okay, you can make goggles that give you +1 perception at level 3, by the way, which I think everyone's going to use. And I'm like, all right, describe them. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I have these centipede goggles, and they make me look like a big insect, and I put them on my eyes. And I'm like, and now for the rest of the campaign, that is what she looks like. And then every time they keep getting more armor and more monster parts, they keep adding to them, and suddenly their gear is becoming as much a character as they are. And I just I've never seen this. I can't, except outside of video games. And that's one of the most popular parts about video games. If you look at Monster Hunter, World of Warcraft, and you see the transmog system, people go crazy for that. Well, here you literally make your character's gear from what you kill.
Yeah.
And you can just say, there's not like, oh, it has to adhere to the system. You can role play your equipment, and that is like game changing.
And I want to tie that back to the heart brain thing that I said before, because I did the math. Like, I did that part, and that's to let you, who's buying this book and in your game, do the heart part. It allows the players, and not just the GM, to be the designers of their own items. And the part system is going to tell you what the special ability you get is for refining the item, and it might give you some options for what kind of imbued properties but you're going to put in. But you, the player, kind of sees the narrative of the item. You put the heart into that. And like Stephen said, you've got the bug goggles, you've got this story now, you've got this narrative, and it makes the items kind of feel a little bit more special and unique, without the GM having to be like, oh gosh, what do I do to make all my items feel special and unique? I guess I can come up with backstories, and I can try to put special little quirks in it beyond the bestiary. But the players become engaged in that process as well, and it gives a lot of ownership. So that's what I see as being really great about it. To circle all the way back to where Ryan was saying, well, what if we don't want to fight monsters and kill them? even if you're getting this from befriending monsters and gaining tokens from them, or the blink dog that you are, shaving a little bit, like Perram was talking about, you still are having this part where the monsters become part of the narrative and the items become part of the narrative, and it makes the world feel more vibrant, at least to me. So you've got the heart and the brain.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're saying somebody's defeated you and printed a book on pages made from your brain and written in Stephen's blood.
Metaphorically, that may be the case. Like, I don't know how much of Stephen's blood went into the amount of time that he was able to spend in this, but
but the pages are definitely your brain, just pulped and laid out.
Those tables, when you see the tables that are in there, where I would just did the math for items by level that will give you, like, in any of the combinations, just this is what you need for that level. And then I used certain estimates and calculated to be like, okay, but come on, you might not want to do it by level. You might just say, we fought a level 5 monster. What should I give the PCs? I can just grab it directly off the table. I did that too. And there's a warning in there that says,
a fire-breathing bagpipe.
Yep.
Well, I know I'm on board on this. And actually, I double-checked, and it never went to vote. It was just kind of, some people were a little iffy about it, and then the topic got dropped. So I think I will be bringing this back up with our GM.
I'm going to yell at Vanessa. I mean, she's
not against
it. She's the one who tried to add it.
Who's on this game, Lauren? Actually, I was invited to this game. I'm going to join and yell at everyone. No, it's really fun. And
just join and get out the vote and vote for it.
I'm yelling. No, so the refinement by level. So someone actually, I see a question here, is like, how does the automatic bonus progression work? And
that's a great question.
That is actually
because it leads to something that we didn't talk about in this particular interview, but did in some of the others, which is that I thought about that and I made a sidebar for it because, I wrote a lot of the alternative rules in the Game Mastery Guide, and so they're near and dear to my heart. So when it came to those, or things that I didn't necessarily write, but I was thinking of, like relics, we have sidebars and optional advice talking about the automatic bonus progression, using relics with this system, various other things that you might want to do, whether or not you want to re-implement a crafting requirement on this, because by default you don't need it. Just your characters are assumed to be throughout the day refining their items, and then during your next daily preparation you finish it, just because it's optimized for a campaign where you're out in the middle of the woods and you don't have a ton of downtime in between adventures, but you kind of need the next item the same way that you would normally be able to just go to the store and buy a +1 sword if you had enough gold. But some groups might be like, well, no, but it feels more real if we're spending the 4 days to craft it, and so it's got something in there if you want to do that. So I tried to think of all the different permutations with optional rules and other things that you might want to tweak, and put it in sidebars or advice, sort of peel back a little bit and like explain what kind of decisions and options I was making as I was going through, so that the GM and the group have the tools to make the decisions you want to make for your game. And that's also why it has 3 variants just to start out, because no one of them is right for every group.
Yeah, so you can use the system for consumables or permanent items only.
So the only part of the system that has like a really in-depth imbuing extra step is permanent items. But and it also only has a progression that goes from level 1 to 20 of different power-ups for permanent items. But the very first thing you do when you refine an item is you make the base item. So you could easily use that step for any other item that was not on that list, right? So normally that first step where you make the base item is the easy one. It's like, 2 silver pieces and I make this sword. All right, now, but I need 35 to get it to be a +1, 35 gold worth of parts. But if you were using it for a 50 gold piece, expensive, higher level potion, then that part at the beginning where you use 50 gold pieces of, I don't know what is, Hydra blood or whatever to make your healing potion, then you just be done at that point.
Clearly it's troll toenails.
Okay, troll toenails. Liquefying that could be the tricky part. You got to get a pretty good mortar and pestle. Maybe use some acid.
Yeah, we if you use the full, so the light system, there's 3 systems, and there's light, hybrid, and full. Light is really okay, only 1 or 2 people might want to use it, or maybe you just want to use the shield system, or you just want to use the perception goggles, which are very useful. So that's fine. You just do it as needed. The hybrid is pretty much all permanent items are replaced, and the runic system is replaced with the monster part system, and it's almost 1-to-1 for pricing. So there's no power creep. The same amount it would take to get, +1 sword, it's the same in this. So nothing is different. And then Mark has balanced the gold that you get per monster so that it works out. The full system is everything comes from monster parts. So the gold per monster is much higher. And then what you can do is you can say, okay, I need some healing potions. Well, there's what do we got in the kitty? You look around at the monster parts, and that's a little bit more creative, but you're like, all right, let's refine some troll blood and start making some regenerative potions or healing potions. And then it's just 1-to-1. Use the same pricing because the monster parts give much more gold, so you can use them to make consumable items. So that's how it works.
The hybrid also doesn't go on every permanent item. That's what makes it a little trickier. It gets rid of about half. And so that way you can get rid of the half that is roughly things like items to raise your skills or shields or swords or armors, the kinds of things that this system is very interested in. Battle Zoo Bestiary is very interested in giving you a robust replacement for. And when you find an item that isn't one of those things, then you make those using the normal system in the hybrid. And so that's sort of how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million sidebars. I mean, Mark and I tried to think of every variation. And the whole thing about this is like, this is the system, and we gave a lot of ways that you can run it, but this is also your game. Like, the imbuing, it's a little easier to craft in this system, but it's actually a little bit harder to imbue something because, for example, if you want to imbue something with fire, you actually have to kill something that has fire traits. You can't just go to the store and buy a fire rune and just add it. You actually have to find specific types of monsters. But if you don't like that in your game, then just get rid of it. Like, we have that. It's like, this is all, we have sort of a traditional system, but this thing is very flexible and it won't break it at all. Like, if you're just like, oh, well, okay, you killed a plant. Sure, you can make a fire rune, fire imbuement out of the plant.
Maybe I burned the vines.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very creative system, and it doesn't really hold itself to these rules. Like, you have to do it exactly the way we wrote it. I would suggest you use the math and the gold. That I would suggest you don't fool around with too much because that could break it. But as for the rest of it, it's very flexible.
This definitely reminded me of something that would have appeared in like Unchained, for example, like a really good toolkit to customize your game with.
My first book at Paizo.
Wow.
That's heck of a starting book, Mark.
Wow, that's your first book.
Right?
Damn.
I know. I came in and they were like, okay. So, I mean, technically I'm credited in Monster Codex because I wrote the Goblin Sticky Lord during copy fitting, but they were pretty much done when I joined the company. And they're like, all right, then we're going to do it Unchained. I was like, that's amazing. This is the stuff I love. Subsystems, variants, like getting in there, doing design stuff on the math and just taking things apart. Like, that's good because also, we're going to have to start the very preliminary work on this second edition thing. And I was like, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me based on like how long editions usually go of RPGs. But so yeah, that there was a lot for me when I was starting at Paizo. It was not the shallow end of the pool.
At all. Mark, Perram, are you interested at all about the Monster Mage? The Azure Mage, if you will?
I mean, they're not really Azure Mages, though. That's just a misnomer because of their blue color of the magic that comes out of them. And people are like, oh, they must use blue as their source, but they really use monsters.
Yeah, that's Zara. Hi, Zara.
This is really fun. I like the concept behind the monster mage archetype. I like that you build it as an archetype too, because like the idea of adding cool monster themed spells to a spellcaster is great, but having played some other mages that wear blue things in other games, it can sometimes get frustrating chasing dragons around saying, breathe on me, dang it, breathe on me.
There is a little bit of that on this, though. You do have to find the monsters to get their spells and special abilities. So there's a little bit of that, but hey, man, you're going to be killing a lot of monsters anyhow, so you'll get something.
Since it's an archetype, though, you still have your main class.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't have the dragon breathe on you. Actually, doesn't have to breathe on you. You just have to defeat it and take a token.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill it. You could beat it in a contest of wits and take a token due to that. Or you could
Chimera chess now.
Yeah, right. You could befriend the monster and get a token from it that way. It's like, yes. Like the interesting thing about Monster Mage is, and we've kind of skirted around this, but they basically have a spellcasting progression that is very familiar to anyone who's seen a multi-class spellcasting archetype. But they can cast from all 4 traditions, but they have to learn the spells they prepare from each day from monsters. And each time they defeat a monster, and it doesn't have to be through killing it, they take a token and they build up their set of different tokens they can prepare from. But when you get that spell that is an innate spell from the monster, you get it like the monster does. So Fae are very well known for using primal magic, but sort of hacking primal magic to get a bunch of spells that are not even on the primal spell list. Like if you look at Fae monsters, you'll be like, whoa, this is illusion and enchantment stuff. This is not even primal. You can get that too. You get it the same way that the monster had it. So you can be like the only person running around with like, I don't know, whatever illusion spells high-level Fae have and casting it as a primal spell.
Mm-hmm. And now when you read the bestiaries, you'll have a whole new appreciation because you'll be going through them like a menu thinking, what monsters am I going to kill and steal their special abilities and spells from?
Or defeat without killing.
Defeat?
My first thought when I got done reading this class was, this would have been really fun to play in Reign of Winter.
Ooh. Yeah.
Monster Mage is this is like one of those things, like it's fun because you can literally steal. Again, this is me talking about monsters are such a big aspect of the game. I don't feel like they are used enough. So it's like, okay, you literally use the monsters to level up and build your character over time. So you are really connected with the monsters in this world. And each of your spells is based off a monster you defeated. I mean, it's like, I can't wait to play her. So,
and there's like a really tiny treatise quote from her at the beginning of the character options section.
We're saying right.
Tell us about the Kickstarter. When's it happening? When can people look forward to getting their chance to get their hands on?
Oh yeah, so kind of buried the lead there. Just go to Kickstarter.rollforcombat.com and you can sign up now and get alerted. You can do that right now, and it starts August 31st at I think 11 a.m. Eastern, so 8 a.m. Pacific, and nice and early, and everything will be laid out. It will go until I believe it's October 1st, so the whole month of September. So we'll have a good 30 days for everyone to get there. Hopefully we get lots of cool add-ons and stretch goals, and whatever people come up with, we might add it to the book, because I'm
unlock all my dragons.
Yes, all your dragons. I think they're all going to be in there. Actually, I think I've changed my mind on that. I think I'm gonna
you're gonna do 39 dragons without any stretch goals? Like, I'm game for it. Look,
I'm
man,
doing it. I'm actually doing it.
You're gonna pay me for 39 dragons.
I am.
I'm really happy to give you 39 dragons.
I'm gonna do 39 dragons with no stretch goals.
Hold on,
Originally it wasn't, but now I'm actually changing stretch goals to other things. But
nice.
Yeah, and it will be, as I said, PDF and physical books. Here's the thing. So a lot of people have been asking, because the Battle Zoo Bestiary is pretty much ready to go, and a lot of people really want to start it. So as soon as the Kickstarter is over, and the books will take a little while to print, because I don't even know how many I'm going to order until the Kickstarter's done. But as soon as everyone does their backer kit, you will get the PDF immediately. So I'm looking at getting the PDFs at the end of October, beginning of November, so you can start using this really quick. So that's the first thing. And then the same thing with the Dragon book and the Adventure Path. So I will get the PDF to you before the physical book if you order it. So we will try to get those out as soon as they're ready.
But obviously not in October or November for those other two books.
No.
We got to do those just before the physical book.
Those aren't written, so those aren't going to.
I just wanted to make sure, because what you said was ambiguous.
Well, I didn't say the year, so there you go.
Oh no!
It is before and October.
Right, October. I didn't say which October. No, the Battle Zoo Bestiary you're going to get this year, and because I know people want to play with the monsters and all the cool stuff we put in here. Dragons is as fast as Mark can write it, and as fast as I can get art for 39 dragons wearing gear. And then the Adventure Path, that's a lot of art and a lot of maps. So I'm looking to Q1 2022. The adventure itself actually
short.
Wait,
that's still pretty fast.
Really fast.
Yeah, but you know what? I did this whole book, and from beginning to end, I finished this whole book, the Battle Zoo Bestiary, in about 3 months, maybe 4. I don't know. I'm insane. I can get it done. Trust me. I have a lot of. I know people think it, but I already have the artwork done for the book, and we don't even have the outline. I already have like 10 pieces of art done. So we'll get it. It's gonna go really quick. You'll see. People are doubting me, but I'm gonna do it.
I've learned not to doubt Steven after he has shown what he can do.
I think that's been learned before. I'm actually not that concerned about it, because I already have about 20 artists lined up. So, and we have the outline, and I should have all the adventures done by November. So and they're all being done simultaneously. So the hardest part will actually be the maps. The maps take the longest, but I'll have all the art done by the end of the year and the adventure done by the end of the year. It's the maps that'll take a while. So.
All right, remind people where they can find you online. Starting with you, Steven.
You can find me at rollforcombat.com, and you can listen to the podcast. You can also find me on my Discord, which is discord.rollforcombat.com, where I'm there all the time, and you can ask me questions about this or the podcast or anything else. But most importantly, go to kickstarter.rollforcombat.com to sign up to get alerts when this goes live on August 31st.
And Mark?
You can find me on Twitter at Mark Seifter, also Facebook, Mark Seifter Game Designer, or you can chat with me on Discord, tiny.cc/arcademark. That's tiny.cc. It's like the one to get the shorter URLs, /arcademark, all one word. And my Twitch channel is twitch.tv/arcademark, and YouTube channel is also arcademark. So that's where you go.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up right after this.
Wrap-ups and shoutouts. Wrap-ups and shoutouts. Wrap-ups. Wrap-ups and shoutouts.
Perram, did we mention to Stephen and Mark that we do on-air goodbyes? Yeah, sorry, guys. The on-air goodbye is the official goodbye.
Oh, bye.
Bye.
It's just the wrap-ups, whatever. That little corner isn't giving away any precious information, right? Thank you for joining us for episode 256 of No Direction, the No Direction Network's Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. Before we go, there's a couple of things we want to bring attention to, including, Perram, are we doing one of our famous wrap-up news segments? There's... Hold on, Jaina says you're muted. Like, I can hear you.
There we go. Yes, such as Wrath of the Righteous is going to be coming out on September 2nd. So you can finally get a hold of that game. I know I've been pumped for this one because I really enjoyed Kingmaker, and I didn't really make it through Wrath of the Righteous when we played it for realsies. And so now I'll get to see how that story ends.
Like, you liked the Kingmaker video game. You tried the tabletop RPG version of Wrath of the Righteous. That didn't go very far. Now you've got an RPG or a computer game version of that, or that adventure path. Right.
And so I'm super pumped to get my hands on that and play through that, because I really enjoyed, like, Owlcat did a fantastic job with Kingmaker, and especially after a bunch of, like, it was good when it launched, and it got better with the mods and what they added to it. It also got a little bit less suicidally difficult, which is a fantastic thing, because no one wants to die to level 1 bat swarms. No, spider swarms. It was the spider swarms that killed you.
Well, it was just swarms in general. If you didn't know Pathfinder and you didn't know you needed area of effects, which not everyone had, then they just picked away at you until you were dead.
Yeah.
You just felt like you were doing something wrong.
Right. So that got patched. Lots of things got patched. Turn-based mode got added, which is the best way to play that game. And Wrath of the Righteous will launch with turn-based mode.
Will it launch? Will it launch with controller compatibility?
I don't know. I do know that the later this year is when the Xbox and PlayStation versions are coming out. So I assume probably, but I do not know that for sure. I'm looking up the page right now while you talk about the next thing.
Yeah, well, so that was the thing with Kingmaker, in that I played it a little bit on my desktop, but I spend so much time in my office on my computer. I don't want another reason to be on my computer. So we've got a Steam link, and I can play my Steam games on the on my TV upstairs. But I need a controller. I don't want another keyboard. I don't enjoy keyboard video games. And so when I had it all set up, I was like, you know what? I've got nothing to do this evening, and I had the whole night with the TV to myself. So I sat down to play Kingmaker, which I hadn't done in like 6 months. And then I couldn't because it didn't have controller compatibility. And so I just watched a movie or something. So whether I get Wrath of the Righteous or not depends on how realistically I think I could actually play it, and like time-wise, and also if it gives me controller compatibility. That's a make or break thing for me. All right. Well,
I'm unable to find an answer to that question one way or the other. It looks like yes.
Yes? Oh, good. So there's a chance I get Wrath of the Righteous, or I might just live vicariously through your stories.
Or you can get
as controller compatibility. It does now. They've been very good about patching on the fly since that game came out. But
also a lot of what Kingmaker is getting patched in is stuff they were adding to Wrath. Kind of like, we made this for Wrath, back patch it to Kingmaker.
Which is good, but it's just at the time, it didn't work out for me, and I have unfortunately not had an evening to get back into Kingmaker since. So the other news item is that Paizo has announced some more shipping delays, and that means that the release of some books that were scheduled for September 15th are now scheduled for September 22nd, which is only a 1-week delay. So keep an eye on this, because I don't know if we're going to get further delays. We all understand the situation that's going on with shipping. We don't blame Paizo for this. Right now, things we were expecting mid-September is late September. We'll see if they become October, etc.
This shouldn't affect Secrets of Magic too much, but definitely things after Secrets.
I believe Secrets of Magic is one of the books that was slated for the 15th that is now the 22nd.
Right, but not next month.
I mean, yet. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Good point. I think I misread that announcement. I thought that was one they had ready.
All right,
Oopsie.
and now on to our shout-outs, starting with I like shouting out to things from the network that came things that came out from the network in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to shout out to the latest Monstrous Physique Presents Summon Monsters Volume 3. I'm shouting out to this because I got to design a monster for Luis's Monstrous Physique blog. So for those that don't know the difference, there's Monstrous Physique, in which Luis designs a monster. Then there's Monstrous Physique Presents, in which Luis gives a piece of art to 3 different freelancers and says, design something. And this being Volume 3 was the first time that he added a wrinkle into that and said it cannot be evil. And so if you look at the artwork of this ashen, blood and fiery knight, I think most of us would have automatically gone to undead. So that can't be evil wrinkle was really like, it was defining to a lot of our builds. It made me end up making a Protean, which when I told Luis that I was interested in this and I was waiting for the art, Protean was not on the list of creatures I figured I would be making. So it was fun. It was really fun to design in this way. I'm not used to being given art and saying, like, we have no further information, just go from there. And it's interesting to see just how different the other artists, the other designers came up with. Oh, actually, did they both make elementals? I thought one was an elemental. Oh, yeah, that's right. One was a construct, one was an elemental, and mine was a Protean. So if you haven't checked it out, it came out last Friday. It is, up on the website right now. You go to the articles, you do the drop menu. It's under Monstrous Physique. And check it out. See what monsters we came up with there.
That one surprised me too, because I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's going to be some sort of evil undead thingy. And I was like, oh, no, it wasn't. And that was a prep in the Facebook post. I'm like, oh, Ryan wrote one of these. That's cool. I didn't know Ryan wrote one of these.
It was fun. All right,
my shout.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My shout out is to is to Flamecraft, which is it's a little Kickstarter board game. But the cool thing about it is that it is the art is by Sandora Tang, which is one of my absolute favorite artists. They do this whole like cute fantasy world with dragons and other creatures in it. And I'm going to pull up the picture as soon as I can find the button. I can't find the button, so I'm just going to click it here. And I've somehow really messed up the page, but hey. But basically it's a town management worker placement game, kind of, where the workers are cute little tiny dragons that have to help this fantasy town flourish by like helping bake things and doing dishes and making jewelry and all sorts of things in the ways that cute dragons can do them.
In a magical realm, a village awakes and artisan dragons make coffee and cakes.
Yes, it's so chill and twee and squee worthy, and the deluxe edition includes actual miniature dragons instead of meeples, and also all the tokens get replaced with meeples instead of cardboard. So I was just like, yes, here's all my money, thank you.
They are already above $500,000, or at least on the Canadian Kickstarter. It's probably closer to high 400,000 in the US. Which means that I was a little worried, just because I'm worried about backing board game Kickstarters right now. So I'm interested in this game, but I'm not interested in backing a board game Kickstarter. So I'm glad that it has super overfunded, and that I can basically guarantee this will at one point be available in a local game shop for me.
And it has a plushie, because of course it does.
All right, another one of my network shoutouts. I'm once again shouting out to Game Design Unboxed, because this was a different episode for Danielle and Denise. They had Vanessa Hoskins on, the No Direction Network's own. And
she doesn't make board games.
I know. They were talking to her as a role-playing game designer. And it was a really interesting conversation to hear Danielle and Denise, who both have minimal role-playing game experience and zero role-playing game design experience, talking to Vanessa. Vanessa walked them through, like, what is a role-playing game? How do you design for a role-playing game? What products are there to even design for role-playing games? And it was really just fun conversation to get Vanessa's role-playing games 101 section of the conversation before moving on to her specific Abomination Vaults writing, where she wrote part 2 of a 3-part adventure path. So she talked about the challenges there and just how she got into the industry in general, which is always a fun story. So that's Game Design Unboxed, episode 21. It's on Abomination Vaults. If you haven't listened to Game Design Unboxed because, it's a board game podcast, and maybe you're only here for the role-playing game stuff, this is a role-playing game episode of a board game podcast. So now you have no excuses. Finally, sort of a network shout-out, although this isn't actually content on the network. Randall made a Pathfinder 2e random character generator. It randomly generates your characters' A, Bs, and C's, and even takes, if you look for closer information, it randomly takes one of the you mights and others probably details about your ancestries and whatnot. And
because of course he did.
Gives you an automatically made character. So, for example, I just made an android with the impersonator heritage. He's an insurgent background, and he is a tyrant champion. Oh my goodness. What did I make here, Perram?
You made a G.I. Joe villain.
Seriously. So he's definitely a villain. And he's an impersonator. So you don't even know that he's an android. He's taken some politician's place and is ruling with an iron fist. A literal iron fist. He's an android
impersonator. He impersonates other androids.
Oh, is that what he does? No, he impersonates people.
Oh.
Anyway, wow, that's a character I never would have built myself, but I am automatically intrigued.
I love things like this, and I love the little things Randall just makes like this for fun and wonder. Always impressed, and just way to go, Randall.
Yeah, it was a random throwaway comment from Vanessa on Twitter, and then Randall's like, "Here you go, V," and she's like, "Here you go, what?" It's like that thing you referenced like an hour ago. Done. And it even looks good.
Yeah.
So what's the website in case people are listening? It's pf2.rpgsage.io/abc/r. Actually, the R might just be because I already used it. Nope, the /R is part of it. All right, I got one more shout out, Perram.
Okay.
It is to Cheer Up! Love and Pom Poms, Crystal Fraser's original graphic novel. It's recently come out. I actually apparently got it earlier than most people.
I still haven't got my copy yet.
So I didn't pre-order. I pre-ordered it through a bookstore, and bookstore emailed me like a month ago. Like this week, I've seen a lot of people sharing their pictures that they got it, but man, I'm almost done. Which I know is not saying it's a graphic novel. I should have been able to do it in one sitting, but I've been reading it to Scarlett every other night because, that's when I get my turn. And she's been enjoying it. She's been asking really interesting questions out of it. It's inspired a lot of really good conversation. And it's also a fun story with really relatable characters all the way through. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Love and Pom Poms. It's written by Christopher Fraser. Art is by Val Wise, who I don't know for anything but this, but the cover art is indicative of the interior art. So that's a good idea of what you'll be getting when you get this book. And that was a when you get this book. I'm not making it an option. All right, Perram, I think we're about ready to fully wrap up this episode.
Okay.
But we're not done.
No. If you are a patron of No Direction, you'll get to participate in the Patrons Private Sanctum over on our Discord server. All you need to do is pledge at the $5 and up tier over on Patreon. Link your Discord account to your Patreon account, and then you'll automatically join into the Discord server where you can hang out with us after every episode of No Direction and talk about whatever you ask us to talk about. That's the idea. It's community driven just for our patrons, and it's become one of my favorite parts of No Direction.
And we actually know what we're going to be talking about ahead of time this time. Lidis earlier today was saying that he can't usually make it to the live shows. Curse you, time zones. But he'd love to hear what people feel about the state of casters and maybe specific comments on divine casters, which of course means with Secrets of Magic coming out, we also are going to spend some time rampantly speculating on how Secrets of Magic is going to be changing the landscape of Pathfinder 2e for casters.
I will have opinions.
You?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, well, let's get to those opinions.
You know me, 2E's Fighter's favorite fan.
Uh-huh. I've played more 2E casters than I've ever played in 1E. It's
We were
I don't know
so
what
switched
happened.
places in
I know.
this edition. It's like,
Anyway, that's content. For
more
Pages
fun and
Private
wonderful.
Sanctum. Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
And if you want to find the path, you need no direction. Bye, everybody.